We were prepared for tanks, missiles, and armies. What we weren't ready for was baseball bats wrapped in barbed wire and men who thought sleep was optional. The Dren Dominion prided itself on being the galaxy's greatest military power. For centuries, their fleets had carved through resistance with precision and brutality, claiming world after world. When their massive armada arrived in Earth's orbit, they expected another routine conquest. Humans, after all, were a relatively young species, still bickering over borders and technology barely beyond internal combustion. The invasion commander, High General Carax, anticipated victory in weeks, if not days. The initial strike was clinical, as always. Dren battlecruisers leveled strategic targets, military installations, communication hubs, and transportation infrastructure. Waves of drones descended to pacify major population centers, capturing key cities with an efficiency that bordered on boredom for the invaders. Resistance was sporadic, as expected, and casualties among the Dren troops were negligible. Earth was falling, just as every other planet had before it. Then, things started to change. It began in the forests of North America. Recon teams were sent to capture a small group of retreating human soldiers, but failed to report back. A second squad was dispatched, their tracking drones picking up faint heat signatures in the underbrush. They vanished too. The third team found nothing but silence and a single drone feed showing an unsettling image. A crude pitfall trap lined with sharpened stakes, dripping with an ominous red liquid. The Dren weren't used to traps. They weren't used to subtlety. They weren't used to war being dirty. Carax dismissed it as an anomaly. He shouldn't have. Over the next few days, the reports grew stranger. An entire battalion disappeared in the deserts of Australia, their last transmission shouts of confusion, the words sandstorm and ambush barely audible before static. In the megacities of Asia, guerrilla fighters struck at night, blending into crowds by day, disappearing like ghosts. In rural Africa, Dren vehicles were found abandoned, their drivers missing, with crude but effective explosives leaving scorch marks across the hulls. The humans weren't fighting like soldiers. They weren't following the rules of war. They were hunting, and they were terrifyingly good at it. It wasn't just the tactics. The humans themselves were wrong. Unlike most species, they didn't seem to value the safety of their own lives. While other conquered races had begged for mercy or capitulated when faced with superior technology, humans were a contradiction. They screamed with fury, fought with abandon, and seemed to laugh in the face of overwhelming odds. The Dren began calling them the unruly ones in whispered conversations, but the term didn't capture the creeping unease that was settling over the alien forces. Carax ordered a full-scale purge, no longer interested in occupation or assimilation. If humans wouldn't play by the rules, they would simply be annihilated. Yet, for every village they raised, 10 more fighters seemed to rise. They called themselves resistance groups, the Wolverines, the Iron Fangs, the Sons of Liberty. Their insignias were crude, their weapons even cruder, repurposed tools, explosives fashioned from fertilizer, ancient rifles that seemed more dangerous to their users than their targets. But somehow, it worked. The first major setback for the Dominion came during the siege of Moscow. It was supposed to be a simple operation. Dren forces had the city surrounded, its defenders outgunned and outnumbered. But as the alien soldiers advanced, the humans set the city on fire. The blaze spread faster than the Dren containment units could handle, turning entire districts into infernos. Human fighters, their faces blackened with soot, emerged from the flames like specters, wielding weapons scavenged from fallen invaders. They didn't retreat. They didn't surrender. They pushed the Dren back, street by street, block by block, until the once proud invaders fled in disarray. Carax couldn't comprehend it. The humans weren't superior in strength or strategy. They were weak, disorganized, and outclassed in every conceivable way, and yet they were winning. His frustration boiled over in a meeting with his top generals. "These primitives lack discipline. They fight like animals," he roared, slamming a clawed fist on the command table. "They fight like they have nothing to lose," one of his advisers murmured, almost to himself. The comment hung in the air. Carax dismissed the meeting, but the words gnawed at him. Perhaps that was the problem. The Dren fought for conquest, for glory, for expanding their empire. The humans fought for survival, and something deeper, something Carax couldn't understand. As the weeks dragged on, the Dominion's advanced weaponry began to fail them. EMP mines planted by human saboteurs turned their sleek drones into lifeless metal husks. Thermal cloaking devices were defeated by humans who simply smeared themselves in mud or waited motionless in the cold for hours. Even their food supplies became a vulnerability. Human hackers infiltrated supply drones, redirecting shipments to resistance groups or poisoning them outright. The Dren had never faced such an enemy, one who adapted so quickly, who turned every weakness into a weapon. And then came the event that shook the Dominion to its core, the fall of the flagship Vilan. Orbiting high above Earth, it was the pride of the Dren fleet, bristling with weaponry and protected by the most advanced shielding technology in the galaxy. It was deemed untouchable, would target population centers directly. No more attempts at assimilation, no more efforts to preserve resources. If the humans thrived in chaos, then the Dren would drown them in it. Carax's plan was brutal and merciless. Entire cities would be reduced to ash, their populations eradicated in an effort to break the human spirit. Yet, deep down, he couldn't shake the gnawing doubt. Every strategy he had deployed thus far had been met with cunning improvisation and relentless defiance. Would this escalation truly crush them, or would it only feed the fire that burned within their species? As the tactical officers worked to implement his orders, Carax returned to the observation deck. He stared down at the blue and green planet that had become the source of his greatest failure. The humans were unlike anything the Dominion had ever faced. They weren't fighting for conquest, glory, or even survival alone. They were fighting for revenge, for freedom, and for something far deeper than the Dren could comprehend. Reports of continued resistance streamed in, detailing ambushes, sabotage, and the humans' unnerving ability to adapt. They turned every new tactic the Dren devised into an opportunity to strike back harder. Entire battalions vanished in the jungles of South America. Supply lines were raided with surgical precision. Even Dominion orbital platforms found themselves under attack by improvised human spacecraft, cobbled together from salvaged technology and pure audacity. Carax's claws once again dug into the observation console as he watched yet another transport ship burst into flames upon entering Earth's atmosphere. The humans weren't just surviving, they were thriving in the war the Dren had brought to their doorstep. The general's thoughts were interrupted by another subordinate rushing into the room. "Commander, new intelligence reports. The humans have launched a coordinated assault on one of our primary outposts in Africa. Their tactics—" "What about their tactics?" Carax snapped. "They're not just fighting us anymore. They're dismantling us. They've captured Dominion weaponry and are using it against us with alarming efficiency. Their understanding of our technology is accelerating." Carax turned slowly, his amber eyes burning with a mix of fury and unease. "And what of the morale among our troops?" The subordinate hesitated, his scales darkening in embarrassment. "Sir, defections are increasing. Entire units are abandoning their posts. Some have even attempted to negotiate with the humans." Carax's claws clenched tightly. The unthinkable was happening. The Dominion's greatest strength, its unity and discipline, was crumbling in the face of this relentless, chaotic enemy. He dismissed the subordinate with a sharp wave and returned to his brooding. The humans had done more than resist. They had forced the Dren to confront their own vulnerabilities. For the first time in centuries, Carax felt the icy grip of doubt. Could the Dominion survive this war? As he stared at Earth, he couldn't help but think, if the humans were capable of this now, what would they become if they won? Would focus on civilian population centers. Cities already under Dominion control would be purged to send a message. Every corner of this primitive planet would feel the Dominion's wrath. The assault began with brutal efficiency. From orbit, the Dren ships rained plasma fire on densely populated regions, leveling entire cities. The scorched ruins of London, Beijing and São Paulo glowed beneath a haze of ash. Drone swarms hunted human fighters in the wilderness, and biological agents were deployed to suppress resistance in key regions. But it didn't work. For every city destroyed, more fighters emerged from the rubble, their hatred growing like wildfire. Human leaders began openly daring the Dren to attack further. "Burn it all!" one broadcast challenged, the speaker's voice crackling with defiance. "You'll find us waiting in the ashes." And they did. Dren patrols began vanishing with alarming frequency. Forests once deemed clear were death traps, filled with improvised explosives and ambushes. Ruins left after orbital bombardments became labyrinths of destruction, where humans moved like shadows, striking without warning. The Dominion's forces, so dependent on structure and precision, floundered in the chaos. Carax's patience wore thin. The humans weren't just resisting, they were humiliating him. His name, once synonymous with invincibility, was now whispered with doubt among his own officers. He needed a decisive victory, something to show his troops and the humans that the Dominion was still in control. The perfect opportunity came in the form of a high-priority human resistance cell operating out of a bunker deep in the Rocky Mountains. Intelligence suggested this group was coordinating many of the global strikes. And that's it for today, folks. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to smash that like button to show your support. It really helps. Don't forget to subscribe and join our growing community so you never miss an epic tale like this. We'd love to hear your thoughts. What would you do in a battle like this? Drop a comment below and let's keep the conversation going. Thanks for watching, and remember, your engagement fuels the fire for more amazing content. See you in the next one.